Hey, this is Jamie with Useful Knowledge. Well, one of our subscribers has asked us how to make homemade bread. Well, we make homemade bread a lot around here, and we just got done making homemade bread. This bread is affectionately known as Natalie bread because Natalie is the wife of our channel creator, Mark Davies, and she provided us this recipe several years ago. So get ready. We're going to show you how to make some of the best homemade bread you've ever tasted. To get started, you need to heat up some water, and you only want your water a little bit past lukewarm. So basically I put 2 cups of water in the microwave for about 30-35 seconds. So we're going to pour that in there. This is 2 cups of lukewarm water. You don't want it too hot because if it's over 140 degrees, it will kill your yeast. Now we're putting in 2 packets of yeast, and that's 4.5 teaspoons. So this is 2 packets of yeast, 4.5 teaspoons. So just take a butter knife and stir in this yeast. The reason I don't use a spoon is because a lot of it will actually stick to a spoon, so I like to use just a knife. Okay, and we're going to give this about 10 minutes. Okay, when you see this yeast start to bloom out, you know it's about ready to go ahead and put your flour in. And you can see it's starting to bloom out here. So that means the yeast is working, so you know it's good. You know it's going to make some good yeast bread. If you don't see this, then I would really question whether or not the yeast is still active. As you can see, this is bubbling out and blooming out really well. So you know the yeast is active. This has been about 10 minutes after I stirred it up. So this is going to make some good yeast bread, and there it goes. Okay, once our yeast and water is ready, we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, a tablespoon of salt, and then 5 cups of bread flour. Now some people ask me, can I use all-purpose flour? I have definitely used all-purpose flour in a pinch, and it really didn't make the bread taste that much different. So yes, I have used it, and yes, you can use it. So we're going to put our attachment on. We're going to let this thing go. Okay, so basically this is about 2 minutes in, and it's ready. I know you can knead it more. I haven't seen the need to. So we're going to take this off. So I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, and we're going to let it rise for about 30 minutes. Okay, it's been about 25 minutes since we covered this, and it's rising really well. So what you need to do right now is prep your bread pans. Okay, I use cast iron bread pans. Now you can use the glass bread pans or the metal bread pans, but what I like to do is warm these up just a little bit because I don't want my bread dough going into a cold bread pan. I like for it to be a little warm, that way the yeast keeps working. Alright, so all I do is I just fill them up with hot water. I'm going to let them sit for about a minute. I'm going to pour it out. I'm going to dry them off. We're going to grease the pans up, and then we're going to put our bread dough in there. Okay, I've got my bread pans out of the sink. They're really nice and warm. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to grease these pans, and you can use whatever oil you want to use, but I'm just going to put some, I think this is canola oil. I'm going to spray these up. Now, I don't flour these pans. I use a trick that actually my daughter taught me, is we're going to put some parchment paper in the bottom of these pans. Okay, now I go ahead and spray that too. Alright, now I'm ready to go with my bread pans. Okay, we're going to move those out of the way. So all I'm going to do here is just cut it in half. That's all I'm going to do, and just separate it. Make sure you get them equal. So now, all I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring this loaf pan in. Just going to stretch this out to make sure it fills up the loaf pan. Okay. Okay, I've got my bread dough in my warm pans, and what that's going to do is going to help your yeast continue to work. Okay, now I've moved this to the top of my stove because a granite countertop will suck heat out of that bread pan as this dough is rising, and I don't want anything to pull heat out of it. So remember, a granite countertop will pull heat out of it. So I like to just set it on a stove eye. This eye is not on. It's just setting up here to make sure that no heat is pulled out of this bread pan as that dough rises. Now, I want this dough to rise up above the top of this bread pan. Okay, so I don't want to put any saran wrap over it because that will actually run into the top of it and it just creates a sticky mess. So what I do is I put a clear bread pan over this so it can rise well above it before I put it in the oven. This bread dough will rise for about 30 minutes, just like this. Now, in about 15 minutes, you need to go ahead and turn your oven on to 350 degrees. That way, when this bread is ready, then you can put it in the oven. So remember, in about 15 minutes after this starts to rise, turn your oven on to 350 degrees. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes in, and this bread is almost to the top of the bread pan. Like I said, we started off with a warm bread pan. It's still warm. The yeast is doing its job, and keeping this glass bread pan on the top, it's really helping to hold the heat in. So it's doing what it's supposed to do, and it's going to rise for about 20 more minutes. Okay, it's been 30 minutes, and we're going to take these off, and you can see this bread has risen up well past the top of these bread pans. All we got to do now is put them in the oven, 350 for 30 minutes. Okay, our bread's been cooking for 30 minutes. We're going to take it out of the oven. Okay, at this point, I'm going to let this sit here for about 5 minutes and cool down. Now what I do at this point, I just run a butter knife around the edges. That's just to make sure it comes out really easy. Okay, I've melted about a half stick of butter, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this butter on this bread. Now you can see how soft this bread is. So it's a really good homemade bread, and you can use it for everything. Sandwiches, whatever you want to do. So now you've got 2 loaves of homemade bread. We're going to let this cool off for about 30 to 45 minutes. Then we're going to wrap it up in some plastic wrap, and it'll be ready for people to eat. Okay, we're going to slice a piece off. Some people want to see what it looks like. And there you go. There's the homemade bread. So we hope you gained some useful knowledge on how easy it is to make homemade bread. Thanks for watching.